Good evening. I welcome you to Strange Nexus, your portal to the realms of the strange, spooky, and unexplained. On tonight's episode, we follow the extraordinary life of an older man who chose to live in the serene heart of Middle America on his vast 184-acre property. Little did he know that his land was shared with an enigmatic and fearsome creature known as the Dogman, an apex predator that defied belief.
The Dogman and I have a truce, an unspoken pact that allows us to coexist on my 184-acre property in the heart of Middle America. I'm an older man, retired from the hustle and bustle of the city, and this vast expanse of land became my refuge and sanctuary. It was here that I stumbled upon the beast, the apex predator known as the Dogman. I had heard stories of this cryptid, a creature with the body of a man and the head of a wolf, lurking in the shadows of the wild, preying on those who dared to cross its path. I was skeptical at first, dismissing these tales as nothing more than urban legends. That was until I came face to face with the beast itself. It was a cool autumn evening, and I was taking a leisurely walk along the edge of the dense forest that bordered my property. I had always been a nature enthusiast, and this land had become my own little piece of paradise. As I strolled, a deep guttural growl erupted from the underbrush, stopping me dead in my tracks. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to identify the source of the sound. Emerging from the trees, the Dogman revealed itself, a hulking figure standing on two legs. It was massive, its fur a dark matted mess. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent intelligence that sent a shiver down my spine. I knew I was in the presence of something otherworldly, something that should not exist. For a moment we locked eyes, and I could see a hint of curiosity in those wolfish features. My survival instincts kicked in, and I slowly backed away, maintaining eye contact as I retreated. The creature did not attack, and I made it back to the safety of my cabin. That night I pondered my next move. I could have reported the encounter to the authorities, but who would believe me? Instead, I decided to learn more about the Dogman, to understand its habits, its territory, and how to coexist with it. I started doing research, poring over books, and scouring the internet for any information I could find. I soon discovered that the Dogman was a territorial creature, and my property had become its hunting ground. It was known to be aggressive, especially when it felt threatened or when intruders encroached on its territory. I understood that if I were to live in peace on this land, I needed to establish a truce with this apex predator. I began to leave food out for the Dogman, scraps from my own meals and the occasional deer carcass I had legally hunted. I made sure to maintain my distance, never approaching the creature. Slowly but surely, the beast began to accept my presence and my offerings. It would come to the edge of the forest, often lurking in the shadows, but it never ventured too close. As the seasons passed, our unspoken truce evolved. I set boundaries, marking the areas of the property that were off limits to the Dogman, ensuring it understood its limits. In return, the creature rarely ventured beyond the boundaries I'd established. Our truce also had a strike system in place, a delicate balance to maintain our mutual safety. If I ever trespassed into its territory or failed to provide food, the Dogman would remind me of its presence with menacing growls and territorial displays. But if someone else crossed into our land, someone with less knowledge of the creature, it was a different story. I had witnessed the horrors the Dogman was capable of, the sheer brutality it displayed when confronted by intruders. On more than one occasion, overzealous hunters and thrill-seekers had entered my property, unaware of the cryptid that resided here. The results were always gruesome. The Dogman would strike swiftly and mercilessly, tearing through trespassers with savage efficiency. It was a nightmarish sight, one I never wanted to witness again. Those who ventured onto our land, seeking to capture or harm the creature, found themselves at the mercy of an unstoppable force. I became something of a local legend, a recluse who lived in the woods, rumored to have a pact with the cryptid that stalked the forest. People spoke of my strange relationship with the Dogman, but few dared to test the boundaries of my property. Over the years, I became accustomed to the presence of the Dogman. It was a reluctant companionship born out of necessity, a shared territory that allowed both of us to survive. I grew old, my hair turning silver, my body less agile, but the Dogman remained as formidable as ever. Our truce was a fragile one, but it endured. I respected the creature's territory, and in return, it allowed me to live out my days in peace, surrounded by the beauty of the wilderness I had come to love. The Dogman became a sealant guardian of my land, an enigmatic protector that allowed me to coexist with the apex predator that should have been my worst nightmare. As the years passed, the seasons cycled through their endless dance, and the bond between the Dogman and me deepened, though always on the edge of treacherous uncertainty. I had grown accustomed to the creature's presence, and it had become a silent companion, a shadow in the woods that lurked on the fringes of my life. My understanding of the Dogman expanded with time. I recognized its patterns and behaviors, and I learned to decipher its moods from a distance. It was not a creature of malice, nor was it inherently evil. Rather, it was a reflection of the wild, a living embodiment of nature's primal essence. It had its moments of curiosity and fleeting empathy, but it was also capable of extreme violence when provoked. The boundaries of our unspoken truce were respected by the few who knew of our agreement. Local hunters and hikers knew to steer clear of my property, for the reputation of the Dogman had spread far and wide. There were stories of its ferocity, of the carnage it left in its wake, and those tales served as a potent deterrent. Despite the relative peace I had achieved on my land, I could never shake the underlying tension that hung in the air. The Dogman remained an unpredictable enigma, and I lived under the constant shadow of its presence. My cabin, nestled in the heart of the property, was a fortress of solitude, a sanctuary against the wild that surrounded me. One summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast long, eerie shadows across the land, I sat on my porch, sipping a glass of bourbon and watching the world transition from day to night. I heard the faint rustling of leaves in the forest, and I knew that the Dogman was on the prowl. I could sense its restless energy, the primal drive to hunt and survive. As the night deepened, I became aware of another presence. A group of strangers, driven by curiosity and arrogance, had entered my property. The Dogman, perhaps sensing the intrusion, had gone to investigate. I knew that a confrontation was inevitable. I grabbed my shotgun and a flashlight, setting out toward the forest's edge. I moved silently, avoiding the branches that would betray my approach. The moonlight filtered through the trees, casting eerie, elongated shadows on the ground. My heart raced, knowing that I was about to witness a gruesome scene. I found them near a small clearing, the Dogman towering over the intruders, its eyes gleaming with a deadly intensity. The trespassers, now aware of the peril they were in, were paralyzed by fear. They had heard the stories, but they had foolishly believed themselves invincible. The Dogman growled, a deep, resonant sound that sent shivers down my spine. I raised my flashlight, aiming it at the beast. It turned its head toward me, its gaze momentarily locking with mine. I recognized a plea in those wild amber eyes. It was as if the creature was asking me for a decision, for guidance in this deadly standoff. I stepped forward, positioning myself between the Dogman and the trespassers. The beast took a step back, understanding my intent. I yelled at the intruders to leave, to retreat from my land before it was too late. They hesitated, fear still holding them in its grip, but the Dogman's menacing presence was enough to push them to flee. As they retreated, I heard their hurried footsteps and panicked whispers, their terror a testament to the cryptid's fearsome reputation. The Dogman and I watched them until they disappeared into the darkness, the tension in the air slowly dissipating. The beast turned and, with a nod of its massive head, melted into the forest, disappearing into the night. I returned to my cabin, my heart still pounding with the adrenaline of the encounter. The unspoken truce had held, and the Dogman had once again protected our territory, honoring our strange, perilous bond. Years passed, and I grew even older, my once strong body weakening with the weight of time. The Dogman remained an ever-watchful presence, our unspoken truce still in place. As I reflected on the bizarre and perilous partnership I had forged with the apex predator, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude for the silent protector that had allowed me to find solace in the heart of the wild, a sanctuary in the middle of Middle America.
This reality never ceases to amaze me. What a tale. Now click subscribe and like this video for more Strange Nexus.